Do you struggle with indecision? If so, then stick around for this video because we're going to share 3 tips on how to break through the fear, the doubt, the worry, the procrastination, all the things that come up when you're struggling with making 2 very important choices in your life. So thank you so much for tuning in to The Elevated Life. I'm Brit and this is Chris Carmichael here, and we are so excited to join you today. So say hello if you're watching live. Let us know where you're watching from. And is this you? Are you in the middle of a transition right now? Today is the fall equinox, and the external world is, symbolizing change with the changing of the colors and the trees letting go of their leaves. The physical world is such a great representation of our internal world, and there's probably some changes going on in your life right now. So I want to just remind you that if you're in this state of stick around because these 3 tips are going to help you out.
Yeah, sometimes it's so rough being in a place where you feel stuck. And a lot of times what I've noticed with our clients is that if someone feels like they've been depressed for a while, or someone feels like they've been anxious for a while, a lot of times it's because they haven't been able to make a decision about something, or they haven't been able to make a specific change that they really want to. And I realize it's so much about what that is because I'm trying to figure out how are they doing this? Why are these people having these things in common? And what I've noticed is the fact that a lot of times it has to do with the way that they're picturing their future. So a lot of times indecision comes from the fact that we don't know exactly what's happening out in our future, or we're imagining in an incorrect way. A lot of times anxiety and worry stem from imagining a future where we don't succeed, or we don't do well, or things are happening that aren't the way we really picture them to be. So if you've been doing that, make sure that when you start to picture your future, you are thinking about it positively. You are thinking about it in a way that's going to work out best for you. Because it may not happen that way, but at least give yourself the best chance. So make that your starting ground for this.
Oh my gosh, you sound like Brian Tracy right now.
I love Brian Tracy.
I feel like I'm at a Brian Tracy seminar.
It's so true though.
Oh my gosh. So I want to hear from you. Are you struggling with something right now? Is there I want to move, which that's one of our indecisions that we're kind of caught in limbo. Our renewal is up for our apartment, and we're like, do we want to stay? Do we want to go? What's the next move? And so it's one of those things that you have to actually take time to tune in to what is your heart saying? What is your logical brain saying? Because one of the tips that we're going to share is going to help you to differentiate. Sometimes we think we need a logical plan, but the truth is that's just procrastination and fear getting in the way. So the first thing is that almost no decisions are final. This is the best part about it, is that you get to make mistakes all the time. It's not a mistake. It's just a mistake. And they don't film a movie in one take. They take multiple, probably millions of takes, and then they piece together the best things, right? And we look at this reel of perfection. So what is exciting about decisions is that there's never a wrong answer. And if you choose something that maybe isn't fully in alignment with where you're going and you learn a lesson, then you're exactly where you need to be, and that was a part of the process. So you didn't make a wrong choice, you just had to learn a lesson. You made a detour.
Yeah, the beautiful part about that is that when you make that decision and it's not the correct one, you get to course correct. And a lot of times what you end up seeing is that the decision you end up making and the one that ends up working the best for you wasn't what you could see from the beginning. So in order to even know that that was an option, you had to make a mistake in the beginning. And so it's so important. It's like Britt said, in the movies, they see a shot, they're like, oh, I thought it was going to be this way, but no, we should change it. We should make it this way. I didn't even know that's how it would be. Always be looking at, when you come up with something, you're like, ugh, that didn't work out. It's imagine if you had to be with the first partner you're ever with your whole life. If that didn't work out for you, it would be horrible, right? I'm so glad that decisions aren't that way. Just always don't feel like if I do it this way, I can never, ever, ever change it. It's not something that's going to be permanent. So be able to pick yourself back up again and say, well, just because that didn't work doesn't mean it's a fail. It just means that I can change it in a new way.
And, that leads us to talking about perfectionism. So many people are afraid to make a choice because they think they're not going to make the perfect choice. And I don't know where or when that was programmed for you, whether it was a overbearing parent that always wanted you to be perfect and live up to their high expectations, or if it was from school or the culture that you grew up in. But it doesn't have to be perfect. You can make mistakes. And that's just like what we were talking about with the filming of a movie. Like, there are mistakes, and you, like Chris said, you don't see that perspective until you go through the process. So don't worry about not doing it perfectly, because maybe that failure actually is perfect because it was the exact perfect lesson that you needed to be able to move to that next decision.
Now, what really helps me with this is to think of life, or think the things I'm wanting to make decisions on as experiments. So many things that we figured out for our life was just trying it. It was literally just throwing a bunch of crap up on the wall and seeing what would stick. And so look to doing that in your life. Take things on as experiments. When it's an experiment, you remove yourself from the failure aspect of it. Because a lot of times what happens is we fail at something. It's because that way, that strategy, that tactic of doing something did not work. It's not us, it's just the actual thing that we tried wouldn't work no matter who was doing it. So a lot of times you just have to try a bunch of things. The best way to do this is to find someone else who's already done whatever it is that you're doing, that we can follow along and say, hey, I want to skip out on the hard stuff. Is there a way to make this a little bit easier? It's so much better to follow along a path. And if you're making your own, if you're blazing your own trail, continuously fail, continuously make mistakes, and continuously experiment so you can figure out what it is that works.
And, just you saying the word like blazing your own trail makes me think of how we're having the people that are able to blaze these trails are people with clarity. And people with clarity don't necessarily have certainty. They don't know how these experiences are going to work out. They don't know if they're going to fail, but they just have the courage to take the leap of faith. They have clarity on what their goals are and that they are capable of handling anything that life throws at you. And if you think about it, everything that life has thrown at you so far, you've handled. Because if you're here watching this video, then you're doing all right. So we don't need the certainty, we need the clarity. Where are we going? What do we want on the outside, on the other side of all this action that I'm about to take? If I were to make this decision, I always help my clients with having them role play and imagine okay, let's pretend we made this decision. Now close your eyes and imagine all the way through the first year of that decision. Okay, if it's moving houses, I've got to pack my stuff, I've got to hire a moving company, it's going to cost money for a deposit. Literally play out every freaking scenario, as many details as you can come up with for an entire year of that decision. Because you're creative, you can come up with an idea of what it would look like, right? You're making those choices. So then rewind, come back and play it out and ask yourself, if I were to make the other choice, what would that look like for the next full year? And then tune in, what does your heart say? Does this feel, which option feels really good for me? Our logical brain, we can't always trust because it may pick something that seems like the certain or the safe bet. But when you have clarity on what what it is that you want, you choose from the heart because you allow your heart to lead and you trust that. And the more you trust and take those leaps of faith on following what your heart is pulling you towards, the more you're going to be met with the opportunities and the experiences that you need to keep pulling you more elevated, elevating you along your path.
That's such a powerful exercise, and don't dismiss it because of its simplicity. It literally takes you only a couple of minutes to run through, and sometimes it gives you the answer that you've been looking for a long time. And if you find yourself on that hamster wheel, if you're trying too hard to come up with a decision and it's just total fatigue for you, make sure you're getting out of your own way. Go work out, go get some endorphins built up, take a nap, just get yourself out of your head and out of that just thinking mode. Because a lot of times that's where we can't find the decision, is we're just thinking too hard about it. And taking that long shower, a long bath, or just going to a concert, enjoying yourself for a night, hang out with your friends, just allowing yourself to get away from it all. Sometimes the answer's right there. But doing this exercise that Brit's talking about, where you project yourself out into the future and literally see it step by step, what's the best outcome that could happen? What maybe is the worst part? Could I live with either of those? Do either of those really excite me? Then strike. The whole part about indecision, the whole part about any of that kind of stuff is do all the decisions while you're excited about them. Your level of enthusiasm fizzles out over time. And so what you need to be doing is the second that you're excited about something, if you get excited about, hey, I want to take care of my health this month or whatever the case is, start doing it right now. Don't go buy shoes. Don't get cool yoga pants. None of that stuff matters. Just immediately start, because your enthusiasm will wane, especially if you wait a few days or a few weeks. It just won't happen. So the best part about overcoming indecision is just make a decision. That's the bottom line.
Pick something, because the universe is going to course correct for you. For example, we're heading down to Austin on Monday for the Marie Forleo book tour, and we searched all these different Airbnbs, and I narrowed it down to 2 different ones. One was this rainbow unicorn magical like freaking cottage. Like you can't even make this stuff up, like only in Austin, right? Then the other one was this really fancy, beautiful, all glass windows, downtown, like condo.
Skyrise.
Super fancy and bougie. And I was in this beautiful, blissful state with my partner, if you know what I'm saying. That's where I receive a lot of intuitive guidance, because I'm in the moment. I'm in the flow. I'm not thinking, trying to make a decision. Which one do I pick? You'll drive yourself freaking mad. So I let it go. I was like, okay, there's 2 options. They're both great. Like, I don't know which one I want. They both seem like pretty cool. And then in that moment of bliss, I was like, rainbow house. We've got to pick the rainbow house. And I felt like Chris may have been like more leaning towards the bougie place downtown. And so I decided to book the bougie place, even though I told Chris after that moment, I was like, hey, we're supposed to book the Unicorn home, because I'm doing a live virtual event called Unicorn Life Fest. And I'll be live down from Austin, because that's when the date falls. So it just seems perfect. I'm supposed to be at this unicorn house, right? So I booked the bougie place anyway. And when I'm booking it, I'm thinking to myself, I know my soul said to pick the unicorn place, but this will be fine. They're both great decisions. So I book it. Yep. And in 9 years of using Airbnb, we have never had someone cancel our reservation. I got an email saying, I'm so sorry, your reservation has been canceled. We've had a malfunction with our lock, and the only time we can come is the day that you booked. What? And so they canceled it. They refunded it. They also gave us a credit, and we were able to go book the unicorn home that was still available. And it got me thinking, like, even when you have 2 great decisions that like feel you, just make one, because if it's not in alignment for your highest good and what's meant to happen, the universe will course correct for you and present you with a new opportunity, and maybe an extra bonus, like, sorry for the inconvenience, here's $50. Like, how cool is that? So here's the thing, stop worrying about being perfect, stop worrying about making the wrong decision, because there are no wrong decisions. Every decision brings you either a little bit more wisdom or a little bit more wisdom, right? I mean, that's it. Like, you're learning every step of the way. And so if you step off to the left, you just learn a new lesson. If you step off to the right, lesson. And then you kind of realize, like, okay, now I found my balance. I'm going to step forward and I'm going to keep going on my path. Trust that the universe really does have your back. And if you're here watching, then we appreciate the fact that the universe has brought us together. We so appreciate all of your love and support here on the Elevated Life series. Brooke says, or go get your hair done with Brit for an ultimate experience to start your self-care journey. She's more than a hairstylist. Well, we let all the shit go with my haircut yesterday. Oh my gosh, yes. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Brooke, for coming in and trusting me with your hair. I know trusting someone with your hair is a very sacred thing. And it's been my pleasure to be in this position. And this is why we've teamed up together to create the Elevated Life, so that I can take all of the transformations that are happening in person with the women that I work with, paired with the amazing mindset shifts and NLP, hypnosis, like all of the psychology and philosophy that Chris has studied over the last couple of decades. We've paired that together to bring you the best of both worlds, of the woo-woo and of the mind and science, which is such a powerful way, because when you blend the two together, then you have a holistic approach to life, and that is what we call the Elevated Life.
Bingo.
Bam! We hope you have an amazing weekend. Happy fall or spring equinox, depending on where you live in the world. We are so grateful for the changes and transformations that are happening in life, in your lives, in our lives, and just every day is a blessing. And there's a gift for you if you have the eyes to see it and the gratitude to receive it. Thank you so much for being here. If you know someone who would love this message, tag them in the comments below and let us know, what decision are you making today? Because here's the thing, there's no wrong choice, and everything leads to a beautiful lesson. So let us know in the comments, what is your decision, and tag a soul sister or friend who you know would love this message, and we will catch you. When do we do this? Every Friday. at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time here for the Elevated Life series. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. Bye.